How do I get an atheist to believe in God?
I would recommend providing evidence for that God. And no, I don't mean look at the trees, I mean actual evidence.
In my opinion, an atheist is not an atheist because of his head, but he's an atheist because of his heart.
Nope, it's my head. My heart doesn't do any thinking or thought processing. But if you're telling me that you believe in God because of your heart and not your head, well, that sounds to me like you believe in God because of emotions and not critical thinking.
Even if there was definitive proof of God's existence, atheists still wouldn't be Christian.
Well, I certainly can't speak for all atheists, but speaking for myself, even with definitive proof, no, I would still not be a Christian.
Whoa. What a claim, Spencer.
Johnny.
How can you say that if God was right in front of an atheist, they wouldn't believe?
No, that's not what you said. If you showed me definitive proof of your God's existence, then of course I would believe in that God. But I still would not be a Christian.
In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve would walk with God. Obviously, that is undeniable proof that God exists. Would you not agree?
Of course I would not agree, you silly goose. First of all, that's a story in a book and in no way proof that God exists. Second, we know that Adam and Eve were not real. There was never a time when there were only two humans. We evolved from previous ancestors. Setting aside the very obvious issue of incest, without any genetic diversity, human beings would have been wiped out at the first sign of a cold. So no, I would not agree that the fictional story we know didn't happen is undeniable proof. Consider it denied.
And Adam and Eve walked with God, and yet in their pride, they chose not to be with God.
That's not even how the story goes.
I mean, look at the Israelites. Imagine being in Egypt when God brought those plagues.
Yeah, I would imagine they'd be like, hey, this guy's a dick. Good thing none of that actually happened.
Imagine being at the Red Sea when it parted. That is undeniable proof that God existed.
That didn't happen either. You're saying undeniable proof, but all you're doing is naming stories from a book. That would be like me trying to convince you Harry Potter was real by saying, imagine if you were there when Harry fought off all the Dementors. Undeniable proof.
A pillar of fire appearing out of nowhere. That is undeniable proof that God existed.
Nope. You're still just naming stories from the same book you're trying to prove is real. You just keep saying undeniable proof, but you can't even prove if these things actually happened, let alone if they prove the existence of a god.
And what does it say about the nation of Israel? That they complained and they were unbelieving.
So? Kind of got lazy on that one. Adam and Eve, undeniable proof. Red Sea, undeniable proof. Pillar of fire, undeniable proof. Israelites.
If people with undeniable proof of God's existence...
Is the undeniable proof in the room with us right now?
Still, some of them decided not to choose God, then I know that it's not about belief in God. It's about surrender to God.
Surrender was a strange way of putting it. I don't think I surrender to things just because I think they're true. But this is why I said even if you showed me evidence for your God, just because I believe he exists doesn't mean I would be a Christian. If I had evidence, not whatever the fuck that was, then yes, I would believe that God exists. But if that God was the God of the Bible, and the Bible was an accurate depiction, then that God condones genocide, rape, slavery, misogyny. I absolutely would not follow that God. Any being worthy of worship would never demand it, and demanding worship disqualifies you from deserving it. Just because you prove that your God is real does not mean that I would compromise my morals to follow your moral thug of a God. And if your God strikes me dead for it, well, I'm fine with that, because I will have died knowing that I am morally superior to your God.